Hey everyone, welcome back to TheEndStep.com's talk show Metagame. We've been gone for a little bit. We had some technical issues that we're working through, so thank you for sticking with us.
Yes, thank you.
We're still smoothing out the kinks. So we got a lot of coverage to get to. We got 5 weeks actually of Magic events to get through, so we're going to just blaze through them fast and furious. Stopping here or there to talk about more noteworthy things to us.
Yes.
So first off, we had GP Kansas City. It was modern, and it was won by Seth Manfield playing Malirapod. The deck has proven itself to be one of the best decks in the format. Very resilient. Has a good plan B of just attacking. Voice of Resurgence made the deck much better. It's a solid deck.
I like how Malirapod's still solid when Kikipod's available as well.
Yeah, the fact that there's 2 decks. I do think this, because of voice, did bring this up a notch now. I think this one is better than Kikipod.
Really?
And I was actually playing Kikipod. I'm kind of leaning back towards this because I started playing Malirapod when it first came on the scene.
Right.
Years ago when Modern first was a format, and then jumped to Kikipod, and then I'm kind of back on Malira.
Well, all right, there you have it.
Voice of Resurgence, is that good?
It is a good card. How many did he play?
I think 2, 3.
All right.
So it's a really key card. The token itself, getting one of your combo pieces, is pretty big. You can sack the token to get your Viscera Seer.
That's true.
Next up was the Worcester Star Cities that we actually went to. Well, I went to.
You went to. I did not attend.
James did not go. I was playing Jund because that's all I play in Standard these days is Jund, and I've continued to play it since it's pretty much been in the format.
Right.
Can't get away from the deck. Although just this past weekend I did play a new deck, but we'll get there. We got 5 weeks to get through.
Yeah.
It was won. That tournament that I was at was won by Drunk Aristocrats.
Yeah. With that.
Yeah. There's a guy with James' same last name.
It's actually my father's full name.
That is funny. So we see, here in the top 8, we got 3 Jund. Jund is everywhere, and it's proven itself to be the best deck. It's just the most diverse, strong threats. It has game against almost every deck. The matchup between Blue-White-Red and Jund, I'd say, is probably the closest matchup. Every other matchup, you feel like you're pretty much in the driver's seat.
We're talking about at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. At this point in time.
Right.
Junk Aristocrats won that day, and it's fine. But I think as Jund got more and more popular over these couple weeks, you start seeing Junk Aristocrats go down.
Right.
Because the more bonfires there are, the worse that deck gets.
Right.
And everybody's playing 4 bonfire, pushes that deck out a little bit.
All right.
So then we have Jacob Wilson with Rug Delver. Rug Delver we've seen plenty of times. It's nice to see that come back to the top.
That was the weekend that our very own John Ashworth, a good friend of TheEndStep.com, managed to top 8. He did write a tournament report, but that was quite a while ago.
Right, yeah, you can go back in the archives and check that out. But yeah, he's playing Goblins.
Yes, he top 8'd. We're very proud of him.
Yeah, very excited to see that. One of our local guys. So then we'll jump ahead 1 week to the Team Sealed event, and
won by Cowley and Rose.
Yep.
M14 Team Sealed. Pretty self-explanatory kind of format.
Yeah, they had obviously they had some really strong decks. There was decent competition in that Team Sealed. There's a lot of pros that showed up to that tournament because all the pros love the team events.
Right. They love being a team.
Right. So then we go to the standard section, and that was won by AJ Soccer.
This was the first M14 standard.
First standard with M14.
Won by White-Black Humans.
White-Black Humans. So the strength of Xanthid Necromancer.
Right, yeah. AJ put the card a little bit on the map.
Yeah. Jerry Thompson was working on it, but played in that same tournament.
The card didn't quite stick around as much, but it's kind of like a fringe deck now.
Yeah, it's the same problem now. It's still you still have to beat Jund, and Jund has again Bonfire and Pillar of Flame, 2 cards that smash that.
Right.
So
moving on, we had GP Calgary. It was won by Alexander Hain, playing Blue-White-Red Flash.
Yeah. The control, I don't really like that it's called Flash still. It's not.
I mean, there is a Blue-White-Red control variant that's way more control-y than Flash. So there's 3 levels of it. There's the control level at like the top end, I guess you could say, whatever.
Okay, is that like what they
Flash is kind of like in the middle, and then you can go even lower and play like Geist Saint Traps and speedy things like that.
Okay. Yeah, but I'd say this version is like probably 90% of the blue-white-red decks.
Yes.
Like the Geist are like a super fringe, and then the super control.
Right, which is why they're called Flash decks.
Yeah.
You know, I think the Geist versions are usually called like either aggro or tempo or something like that. You know, they don't usually call them Flash.
So again, it's a standard deck. We're seeing a bunch. You know, it's pretty much the revelation deck in standard right now.
Right. The deck's not going to go away. It'll exist for the rest of the remaining standard, and you will have to be able to play against it for the rest of remaining standard.
Yep.
And more than likely, some kind of variant that's similar will persist going into next
specifically
rotation.
like the blue-white core of it is pretty much there, except for the creatures. Like,
right.
The creatures all switch, so you have to find new creatures. But like the spell package is like pretty much intact.
Oh yeah, and the spell package is really like where it's
right,
at.
That's the engine.
It is. I do think it's interesting that he played a Mutavault.
He did play a Mutavault. Like there's been like I've seen Mutavault in that slot. I've seen like a Ghost Quarter. I've seen Moreland Haunt. I've seen a Lighthouse. Like your action lands can pretty much be whatever you want, whatever you think is good that week.
Right. I'm a big fan of Mutavault, so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it's decent, especially in the control matchups.
Yeah. Moving on.
So then we go to Star City in Somerset, and yeah, this was the Invitational weekend, and that was run by Eric Smith. So he's playing Blue-White-Red Delver, which is a little bit different. We've seen a few decks like this. So this is like Geist of Saint Draft and like a more aggressive, like essentially like your green is getting cut, but you're like getting like better creatures in terms of like Geist and stuff like that. Instead of like playing Rug Delver.
Yes.
You know, like with the Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf, you're getting Geist of Saint Draft.
And like I'm pretty sure they run Stoneforge.
Right.
And things like that. And swords.
Yeah, and
better
swords.
removal.
Yep.
And then in standard you played Jund midrange.
Jund. Which why wouldn't you?
It was the Star City Invitational, $10,000, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's always been a split format.
Yeah, I like this.
I believe it's 3 rounds or is it 4 rounds when they switch.
I think it's 3 and 3 and 3, and they go back like.
Yeah, they do like 3, 3, 3. They keep swapping back and forth between formats, and then the top 8 is usually one entire format, of which this case it was standard.
And then they actually alternate from Invitational to Invitational. So like if this Invitational was you played Legacy, the next one you'd play Standard
in the top 8.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, major props there. Jerry Thompson did top 4. We really wanted him to win again, just because he needs more of these. I was really impressed with Jeff Hoogland, also top 8ing. He played the black-green mid-range deck in Standard, and I feel like he gave it a lot of respect.
Yeah, his list to me is like the list now.
Right. Well, because he top 8 at the Invitational, everyone's like really considering this deck to be a real deck.
His big innovation was like 4x Lifebane Zombie. Just made that deck much better. It gave it like a good early threat, which the deck really didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
It gave another interactive early spell, which the deck had, only a couple.
Right.
So yeah, the Lifebane Zombie definitely makes that deck better.
Yeah, and I think it's very cool that he still plays 4-color Loam in Legacy and does well with it. Yeah, so good for him.
So then the standard opened that weekend.
Yes, which was going on the same day. Like the Invitational starts on Friday.
Yeah.
And then continues into Saturday.
Yep.
And does it conclude on Sunday?
The Invitational, yeah.
Yeah. So they also have the Standard Open and the Legacy Open, and I believe this Standard Open was the biggest Standard Open.
Yeah, it was like 900 or something like that.
Was that this one? Was this the Gold Rush weekend?
I think so. Yeah, this was the Gold Rush weekend.
Yeah. So then this was like a gigantic. They have this huge invitational tournament going on, and then they have like a GP in like the same room.
Right.
It was pretty crazy.
So this was won by Jund.
Jund. We can ignore that because Jund is boring. And
it's not boring.
More interesting is William Jensen got second place with Green White Elves this weekend.
Yeah, which this guy was like, that deck sucks. Nobody's gonna play.
Yeah, I think that deck's horrible. It's just a bunch of 1/1s.
And in a room full of bonfires.
Right, in a room full of bonfires. But he got second place.
And he was able to go to second place.
And kind of like the white-black AJ Soccer deck, it's going to remain a deck, but it's going to be more fringy. You don't really need to have a plan for it every time you go to an F&M or a
Right.
bigger event, but you'll see it once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, the deck definitely needs to dodge bonfires. Like, that's the biggest problem. And if it does, it's crazy powerful. Like, turn 3 Garrick is
It feels a little bit like a combo deck.
Yeah, it is. It is very combo-y. This was like kind of his middle of William Jensen's like tear he's been on, where he just like now has gone on like since before this and now after this has gone the past 5 opens that he's played in. He's top 8 at everyone.
Yeah,
it's like that's insane.
It's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Very ridiculous.
Just goes to show you the consistency of play, and he's played different decks too, which is pretty key.
Yeah, it's really he doesn't stay with the same thing. He tends to play different stuff, which is really even shows how much better he is.
It's more impressive, yeah.
It's more impressive. That same weekend in the Legacy Open, it was won by Gerard Fabiano, who honestly does not win enough stuff.
No, he's a good player, and deserves a lot of respect. But it's nice to see him take down a tournament.
Yep.
With the list that we saw in the Invitational.
Blue-White-Red
Delver, yeah. So it's a more aggressive deck, and he piloted it really well, and he had really good draws. So
yeah, Death in Texas had a really strong showing that weekend too.
It did,
taking 2nd place. Now there wasn't more Death in Texas lists in the top 8, but it was on camera quite a bit.
Yeah, the guys that he played with all showed up with that list.
Yeah,
the guy that Jonathan Karpaska.
Yeah, it was on camera both in the Open when they finally covered the Open and during the Invitational. A lot of people were playing Death in Texas in the Legacy version of the tournament, and it was doing really well. I was really happy with it because I think it's a really cool deck, really old school kind of deck.
It is,
and just like Goblins or Storm, whatever, it deserves its time in the light.
Right. Yeah. It has very powerful draws that can shut out a lot of decks.
Mm-hmm. It attacks from lots of angles.
It's a little weak to the straight up more control decks, just because it's weak to swords and wrath and stuff like that. But,
yeah.
It's a creature based deck, so it's the same problem that Maverick has.
Right.
So then we jump over to Star City, Minneapolis. Won by Jund.
Won by Jund. Another 3 copies in the top 8.
Yeah. So if you can't beat Jund, yeah, you need to find a new deck.
You need to have a plan for Jund. That's a deck you will face.
Yeah,
every tournament,
multiple times.
Yeah, more likely multiple times. So either you're playing Jund and working on your mirror match, which I've heard is horrific.
It's coin flippy. It's very
or you have an excellent plan against Jund.
Right.
It's got to be one of the two.
Jund players, myself included, you're just kind of searching for that new card, new sideboard tech to break the mirror, because the mirror revolves so much around Garrick and Rakdos Return that another card is sometimes needed. So sometimes Rorik Thar is a big threat. Sometimes it's Underworld Connections. Sometimes it's Vraska. It's nice to kind of switch up and keep everybody on their toes. I really liked Vraska initially, and then I went away from it, and now I'm really back on Vraska because everybody is on Underworld Connections and Primeval Bounty, and people tap off on Primeval Bounty, and I'm Vraska, kill your Primeval Bounty, and I have a Vraska still,
Right. Yeah.
So I think Vraska's actually pretty good right now.
We played a couple games of the day, and Vraska really
did a lot of work.
Put you through the hoops.
Yeah, definitely did. The Legacy.
The Legacy Open of that weekend.
So, talking about old school decks with the Day in the Sun, Goblins takes it down.
Yeah, so this was kind of a weird top 8. It was Goblins, then Ad Nauseam, which lost to Goblins.
Yeah. Reanimator.
Reanimator was it's getting a little old schooly, but it's still a good showing. Jund.
Yeah.
Really weird. And then Merfolk in a 5th. This is a really old.
Yeah, if you look
top 8.
Yeah, if you went back 3 years and looked at the top 8.
Yeah, but it's got Goblins and Merfolk both in the top 8.
Yeah.
It's pretty strange.
It's pretty cool. The only new school deck is Shardless Bug in 8th.
Yeah.
So to be said, if you have your favorite Legacy deck, it's still viable. I think the format is so wide open that you can't prepare for every single deck, and you can just slip through there.
Right.
There was a classic that we thought was kind of cool to mention. There's a green-white deck that's kind of popping in around now with Archangel of Thunes and Scavenging Ooze, that synergy of like paying a green to like make all you guys bigger
To
and like,
township you guys.
yeah, for like super cheap is really, really strong, especially in the creature matchups.
Yeah, they're
It's
also
so
it's
powerful.
also playing Tristani, so it's like whenever you play a creature, you township you guys.
Right.
It's pretty crazy. It's so far been the best showing of Archangel of Thune.
Yeah. It's definitely a really strong card, and we'll find a home. And I think we'll find an even better home than this. It just hasn't found it yet.
Yeah, what's really sweet is pretty much the entire deck is a post-rotation deck. Like,
yeah, most
the
of it,
majority of the cards, the ones that matter, like Tristani, Scavenging Ooze,
yeah.
Archangel, Voice Resurgence, Loxodon Smiters.
Yep.
So pretty interesting.
Yeah, like green white is definitely strong out of the gate. I'd say after rotation.
Yeah, there's a lot of really strong offers on rotation, which is really sweet.
So then we go to the World Magic Cup and World Championship week. We'll start with the Magic Cup, won by France, which included Raphael Levy. It doesn't hurt to have a Hall of Fame pro on your team.
Yep.
They basically chose the two best decks, and then Raphael Levy worked on and came up with this like crazy mono green aggro deck.
Playing what's that card again? Druid's Familiar.
Yeah, Druid's Familiar and Predator Ooze. And the deck's pretty sweet. Like it's pretty resilient. Like to removal because of all like the Undying guys. Predator Ooze obviously doesn't die. Rancor is obviously sick.
Right.
So it's a lot of damage, a lot of pretty fast, and it was a great complement to the other decks because the other decks were Jund and Blue-White-Red. So obviously those two decks are super greedy in terms of cards and mana base. So
Right.
like there's not a lot left. So
Yeah.
this was like a perfect third deck, and it did a lot of work. It was actually fun to watch because it was so different. Like we were, we're so these last couple weeks have been like Jund, Blue-White-Red, like all this like very very similar matchups, and this like it was nice to see some like true innovation out of a few countries. With some interesting decks because of this unified standard format, which
it was unified standard.
was really cool. I hope they do more unified standard because it forces your team to think.
For those of you who don't know, unified standard is a team format where you have 3 people on a team, and you can't have more than 4 copies of a card amongst everyone on your team, all 3
Right.
players. So you need to come up with 3 decks that don't usually either don't share any cards or share very little. Like Levy's deck had 1 Scavenging Ooze, and the Jund deck on their team had the other 3.
3, yeah.
So I agree, it's a really cool format, and I would love to play it personally.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be really interesting. It gives you so much room for brewing and innovation.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah.
Cool format, and it's a cool deck. I don't know if it's like strong enough to really compete in like a 1v1 format. The green deck. So I'm speaking
the green deck. Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. It's definitely fun, and some of the elements like kind of slipped into Brian Kibler's deck, which is like the next topic of that he played in his standard portion of the World Championships, which basically Brian Kibler like broke standard for like a couple weeks.
At the moment it's still considered to be broken.
Yeah.
This deck.
So this like Dragon Master green red, which everybody's calling, is like it's just a green red aggro deck, but uses some 1-drop mana excellence to just like power into Hell Rider and Thundermare Hellkite, and like the 2 best decks in the format, Blue-Red and Jund, kind of have a problem with that. Like
Yes.
it's Thundermare Hellkite and Hell Rider, in addition to Flintiff Boar and Scavenging Ooze and Strangleroot guys.
How many creatures is it that have haste?
16.
16 creatures in the deck have haste.
Yeah. So like it's just like I was telling James, like it feels like this deck feels like a hammer. Like you just like punch your opponent in the face and then they lose. And then if they don't lose right away, you just punch them again and then they lose.
Pretty much.
Because like you're just running out of the gate every turn. You have these like crazy curves where you like turn 2 Flintiff Boar, turn 3 Hell Rider, turn 4 Thundermare Hellkite. Like ow! Like you're just dead.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I'm really happy because Brian Kill is my favorite player. With like the decks, we were like very similar decks, and I like when he comes up with decks that do well. Because his kind of old school mentality of like playing guys, turning them sideways, like still works.
Yeah, and doing well it is.
So this is the deck that I've tried most recently, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's very straightforward. It doesn't have as much play and interactiveness as Jund does, but it's definitely a nice change of pace to just be the one pushing the pace and do you have an answer for this? No? Okay, you're dead. Next
Right.
game.
Right.
Instead of Jund, it's control deck, so you're kind of always on the back foot until you stabilize, and it's nice to kind of take a break from that and.
And it's even really hard to stabilize because everything's got haste.
Yeah, haste, and they're tough to deal with. Each one of the creatures in this deck, the green-red deck, kind of requires each piece of removal. So all right, yeah, the Stranglegeist, bam, all right, I want Pillar Flame. But then if he has a Hell Rider, oh man, Pillar Flame is really bad. But then all right, if I have a Searing Spear, all right, sweet, that's great for Hell Rider, but then if he has a Stun of my Hellkite, it's oh crap.
Yeah, it plays every great card on curve in the colors.
Right.
And because it's so diversified and follows a curve, it makes the answer that you have to have also be diversified.
Diversified and quick.
Right, and those don't really exist.
It's tough.
It's
It's
very,
tough.
very tough.
So it's a good deck. One of the issues with the deck is the mirror match, which is a real thing now because everybody is playing this deck because he broke the format. You can see going from when he played it in the World Championship, the next day at the World Cup, a ton of the countries were yep, we're playing this deck. So just goes to show, and they did well with it too. So it's definitely a deck to try, but the mirror match is a problem because you don't have good removal. You have Mizium Mortars, and then you have other red removal out at the sideboard. None of them deal with Thunder My Hellkite. So you just Hellkite each other until somebody dies.
Yep, it's a large amount of face punching.
So it's crazy. So Volcanic Strength is good there. And I've noticed some number of fogs started showing up in sideboards. And the card is bonkers in the mirror match. It's the card. Who has fog wins.
It's alright, I untap Hellkite, swing for 13, you're dead.
Yeah.
Fog, kill you on the swing back.
Yeah.
Ah!
Fog is the card in the mirror match to have. So
It's literally one green to win the game.
one game will win the game, yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
So there was twice in the tournament I played it in that it was literally one turn away from killing each other. So I either killed him with double rampagers, doing 12, and then if I didn't have that, then he had I was playing a mirror match basically with I was playing green red, he was playing red green, so he had Searing Spear me end of turn into Hell Rider, and then I was dead. But because we had double, there was you're in just these crazy race situations with the aggro and aggro mirror match.
Yeah.
Which I definitely would rather be on the green red side because your creatures mainly eat their creatures.
Right.
Boar is better than most of their creatures. Stranglegeist double blocks.
And you have Ooze.
And then I have Ooze to gain life and get huge. Which anything above a 4/4. So as soon as you get to 5/5, there's no removal.
They just can't get rid of it.
So it's pretty huge.
Yep. Anyway, Brian Kibler's story aside,
Right.
Shahar Shenhar ended up winning the World Magic
Yeah.
Championships at the age of 19.
Yeah. 19, youngest ever.
He's the youngest ever to win something like this. He's 19, and the game of Magic itself is older than him. Sit on that for a second, dwell on that for a second.
Yeah, it makes me feel super old is what that does.
Yeah.
The kid's good. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah.
He's really good, and he beat really good players to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody he was beating was the creme de la creme, so
Yeah.
you can't deny that he's one of the best in the game right now.
Yeah, he ended up playing Blue-White-Red in both formats. Because it was standard, well, it was almost every format.
It was every format, but standard and modern, he played the same deck.
Well, there was no Legacy.
Yeah, no Legacy.
There was two drafts?
There was M14 and Modern Masters drafts.
Yep, so there's 4 formats. M14 draft, Modern Masters draft, standard, and modern.
Yep.
Shahar ended up playing Blue-White-Red in modern and standard. In standard, it was more of a flash list. In modern, it was much more of a control list.
Yeah, but there's a lot of shared cards.
Right, I was really happy to see Sphinx's Revelation in the modern deck.
It's good enough. It really is.
I hope so, because I personally tried it, because the decks are so low land count that you usually don't get up to a crazy amount of lands, and it can be too slow with some other of the things in the deck, in the format that you want to be interacting with. When they're going nutso's Malera combo on you, I don't want to be sitting with a Revelation in my hand and I've got 4 lands.
Yeah. There's definitely certain matchups it's not great in.
Right.
Combo matchups specifically, but it's definitely the card you want in the control mirror match.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%.
Obviously, there was a lot of people with his same mindset because the blue-red deck in Modern has been around. Everybody knows about the deck, but it's never been like usually Melirapod is considered better, but nobody showed up with Melirapod at this tournament. Like most of them showed up with blue-red.
That's one beef I have about this tournament was that there was very little diversity in the decks,
except for Duke. The Duke baby. With some slippery boggles.
He played slippery boggle in Modern, but
slippery boggle, but just green-white though.
Just green-white. Yes. But in Standard, everything was blue-red, Jund, except for Kibler's Innovation and Wesco being Wesco.
Yeah. Willie Adel played like Naya.
Yes, there was a one Naya deck.
So that he always plays Naya, so it's not super surprising.
Right.
But yeah, like there wasn't much innovation there. In Modern was the same thing. Like I think they kind of went with like safer choices. And honestly, like there was clearly like a lot of communication between the players before the tournament because a lot of them had the exact same list.
Right, and that's some people. Some people have been a little unhappy with that. They wanted a little more diversity, and I mean, it's great that everyone like works together or like tests together, or whatever stuff, but. It's a little too like close knit. It felt like a Friday night with everyone's like buddies just hanging out, and they're having a ton of money and a trophy like on the end of the line. I think a good way to like help that problem is to just bring more people to the tournament. Like it's a 16-player tournament.
Yeah, even if they double it, I think it would be.
Yeah, I think 32 is perfectly fine.
Would be nice.
That way you'll have plenty of people who don't interact with the other people, and it's like, well, I don't know what that guy's going to play.
Right.
I don't know what he's going to bring. They maybe do something crazy. We need some more wild cards going around.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
You know what I'm saying?
I like the smaller tournament because it does allow these like 4 format tournaments, but going to 32 wouldn't break that. Like
I don't think it would at all. One thing I do like about these higher end tournaments, like the Wizards-based ones, is where they do the finals, or I think it's even the whole top 8. They do best of 5s, instead of 3s, and I think that's excellent.
It's awesome because you get to see like the sideboard play of like all right, game, on the play I sideboard out this, and like then you play like the sideboard game of like, all right, he's probably because I have the deck list, like he's probably gonna bring in this, this, and this, so then I can like sideboard his sideboard, and like you see that whole thing going on.
It adds a lot more dimension to the to the sets, the rounds.
Yeah, it makes it more, I think, for the viewer, more interesting to watch. You see a whole other facet of the game.
Right, and it takes a lot of the, there can definitely be 2 games where you got a little mana screwed or something,
Yeah.
And something like that could very easily happen, and you're not just out of the tournament.
The more games you play, the less variance.
That's what I'm trying to say. The more games you play, the better you actually get for a feel for the matchup.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That was that.
I will say Jocelyn Layton's green-black deck was pretty sweet. His redless Jund was pretty sweet.
He wasn't the only one playing that. I thought somebody else played that.
I'm not sure. I'll have to look now that you say that, but...
Yeah, but I agree. So I did see one of those. I don't know if it was...
It's pretty cool. Like, I remember I tried that, but it didn't really good. It wasn't really good. I was trying I was being way too cute with Death Shadow and Virals and stuff like that.
Right,
but,
right.
Same idea, like a true more old school rock deck with 4 Treetop Village and all that stuff.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
his list was way better than mine.
It did look awesome.
So that will wrap up Worlds. I'm pretty sure. Anything else we want to say there?
Nope.
So now the whole thing with the Dragon Master deck, we go to the next week, and it wins 2 out of the 3 tournaments.
Yes, it took first place and second place at the Start City Games in Salt Lake City.
Right.
Yeah.
Jacob Toby won that week. And Jund mid-range, still present, so we still have 3 copies in the top 8.
Another black-green deck.
Yeah, so the rock deck in Standard is present. There's 4 copies of the green-red aggro deck in the top 8. So half your top 8 all of a sudden is this new deck that Brian Kibler designed. We see the obligatory William Jensen top 8ing. You just plug him in a spot now, basically, if he shows up to play in the top 8.
Yeah, right.
So then he plays again on Sunday because it was double Standard, and then he wins the Sunday tournament. After dropping a game early on in the tournament, too.
I was going to say that the Saturday tournament, there was no blue except for the Ban Hexproof deck.
Yeah, no blue in the whole top 8.
No blue or red.
Which I do think Ban Hexproof actually is well positioned right now.
Yeah, it's probably one of the only decks that could almost race the green-red deck.
A straight up race, because all life gain, and doesn't interact with at all. It ignores all the removal that the green-red deck can have.
Right, I agree.
So yeah, it's definitely a decent choice right now, I think. It has a decent play against Jund and Blue-Red if they start shaving for stuff like that. Like if you cut out some Barter and Bloods and some Lilianas or some Celestial Flares out of your control deck, all of a sudden, like, you know, and it's very possible if they need to deal with the green-red deck. Because, like, that deck is, you much rather have, like, more Doom Blades.
Right.
You know? And, you know, Doom Blades are just a totally dead card against Hexproof.
Yep. So that Sunday, since it was a double standard weekend, William Jensen did win. You said that already with Jund. Oh, but what's really funny is there was one green-red aggro deck in the top 8.
Yeah.
But then there was 5 Jund decks.
5 Jund. Yeah.
5 Jund decks.
And you'll notice that the Jund decks started adding more Doom Blades here. So, like, in response to all the Hellkites and Hellriders, Jund is like, well, screw that. I'm not going to lose that. Like, more Doom Blades and actually, like, one and maybe extra in the sideboard.
Yeah. This is, like, the exact image of, like, a healthy format. You know, where it's like one deck comes out of nowhere, does really, really well, and then, like, you have to react to that.
Right.
Change your strategy up, and then you do really, really well, but because you changed something, then something else is going to be good against you that wasn't before, and then they do really well. It's cyclical. Things coming in and out. It's not just like a 1, 2, 3 decks. It's, you know, something's good here, something's good here. That's what you want a format to be. I do think there's a little too many Jund decks in the top 8 here, but
yeah, it's a little nuts. This is a little skewed, but I am happy that it's not. We're not to like the oppressive levels of like Cobblade, where the entire top 8 is like, you know, Cobblade.
Yeah.
But I do like that the deck can be beat. And, like, Brian Kibler showed that it can be beat pretty easily. Like, Burning Earth and Tournament Hellkite, like, just kick the deck in the face.
Jund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, the deck can get beat. You just got to think about it. Like, you don't just, like, give up and be like, all right, I'll just play Jund on Jund.
Yeah, that's another thing we didn't actually bring up. The fact that Burning Earth is, like, all over the place.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a great point, because that's one of the reasons why Kibler's deck was so good, was that, you know, simple mana base, 2 colors, so Burning Earth did not hurt it, you know, much at all. And against the 2 decks that I mentioned with Jund and Blue-Red,
it's devastating.
The sideboard card of 4 Burning Earths is like unbeatable sometimes.
Yep. To the point where people have like started main decking them now.
Yeah.
That like they're so strong, and like, you know, you're gonna face so many Junds or Blue-White-Red decks that it's like, you know, we'll just put them in my main deck. Like, it works. But because of that, like, now everyone's switching like not blue-white. I was gonna say 2-color decks.
Trying to
mitigate the effect of Burning Earth.
Yep.
And it's working to some extent, but I think there still is a little more innovation in those kinds of archetypes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Sure is. So then the last tournament was GP Warsaw, won by Wenzel Krautman with the Dragmaster deck again.
Yep. So out of the past 3 weekends, it has won twice. It says a lot.
Last 3 tournaments in the 1 weekend.
Yeah.
The interesting about this top 8 was there's a lot of banned hexproof.
Yeah, well, like just like we said.
Right. That's kind of what I was leaning towards. Again, we have Jund, and we also have
There's a
rock deck. Yep. So, you know, that interplay is still happening. There was actually a zombies deck, which is kind of interesting, but
pretty weird, but interesting. And a Naya deck.
Yeah, a 9 deck. Which that one is pretty. Is that the aggressive one or the like bigger one? I think it's the aggressive one. Yeah, it's the aggressive one with zombies.
Okay.
So that about wraps us up for our coverage. The long-winded edition of Metagame.
Yeah, it was surprisingly not much longer than normal. Oh, yes, it was. Never mind. I take that back. I just lied.
So the last couple like small things we wanted to talk on was like From the Vault 20 has been officially spoiled. The general opinion that most of us have, and that I've talked to other players, is like Jason Mind Sculptor alone makes it totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I got it when it was like 35, like pre-order and everything like that. But some stores are selling it like in the hundreds, and people are buying it.
Yeah, I mean, 200 is really a fair price. Like,
yeah, I mean, you're buying a Jace pretty much, but
yeah,
you get a foil Jace.
Foil Jace, with the special foil process, if that matters to you.
Right.
But then you get 19 other cards, which are pretty sweet. Some of which have never been in foil, like Hymn to Torak.
Oh, Hymn to Torak's awesome.
You know,
I love it.
Dark Ritual is pretty sweet in foil. You know.
Yep.
So you get to these like cool other cards. There's nothing like, it's clearly like they were like, all right, we're gonna put the one crazy card with Jace, one big money card, make it the chase card that everybody wants. So like everything else felt like a little knocked down in terms of like power. Like I thought that the last year, like the 2012 year, it really should have been Primeval Titan, in my opinion, if they were like trying to, pick a card from the top deck.
Oh yeah, what did they put?
That Wolf Run.
Oh.
So Wolf Run was the card from like the green-red primetime decks that I was playing, and everybody was playing at the time.
They honestly probably didn't put primetime because he was a GP promo.
That's possible.
And if they did, he'd probably look exactly the same as the GP promo. I mean, different foiling process, but
yeah,
the art would be the same.
So yeah, it's pretty sweet. Good luck finding one.
Yeah,
if you want one.
If you can somehow find one for a cheap price, you would be a fool not to get it.
Yeah, you just get it. You're just losing investment if you're not getting it.
Yeah. Even if you get it for a couple $100 and then just resell it a couple months later, you'll definitely turn a profit.
What else is there to talk about? We still don't have too much Theros news. We started to get some leaks, but most of them seem kind of fake.
It's still there's still some of the ones that are out there are still up in the air, but yeah, not really anything else. They officially announced Born of the Gods, but we already knew about that.
Yeah,
so it was more just details. Yeah, small set. Release dates. Game day. I don't know if they said the game day for it.
Yeah, they did.
And launch parties, pre-release, all that kind of stuff. Nothing particularly crazy.
We do have the official name for the plant, which you see has been repotted and has grown exponentially.
Yes.
So the winner, so your big no prize, the name is Doran the Siege Tower. I thought it was the best name. It was magic related. It's a plant, and he's a plant. It worked. I was happy with it. So
I like Doran. You played with Doran in the past.
I have.
I have not.
I'm a big fan of Doran. So
I like the card, but I've never played with it.
So it was near and dear to my heart. So Doran wins. Thank you for all your submissions. Thanks for watching the metagame, and we'll see you around.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
See ya.